great video, and as you can see, there are 3 driver heads this year. The Mavrik features the new Cyclone arrow shape, the Max is the most forgiving, and then the Sub-Zero is another option for players looking to lower their spin rate. The AI technology, which designs the flash face as well as jailbreak, are carryovers from previous years, and you can see the shape of the Max and Sub-Zero look more like the Epic Flash and Rogue drivers of the past. The engineers that built the driver heads, they were out here earlier this year, and they stated that nearly 90% of golfers will fit into the Mavrik head. So during the following explanations and suggestions, if you're not sure which head is right for you, then go with the Mavrik. There are a lot of shaft options available for these drivers, but we will be looking at the ones that are offered free of charge. As we progress through the options, the categories refer to the distance you hit your driver at sea level. So, first category is going to be for those that feel no matter what club they hit, the ball always goes the same distance. The perfect driver head for this group is going to be the Max, typically in the 12-degree head. The stock shaft is the Helium 4. Great shaft, allows for maximum feel and forgiveness, and what I would suggest going with if you are in this category. If you feel you hit the ball extremely high, then you could go with the Helium 5. The green even flow will go even lower if needed, or I would recommend this shaft for players that swing really hard, meaning it feels like you swing from the top of your swing as opposed to having a long, smooth, flowing swing. There are 2 other shafts offered. You got the Cortana and the Recoil, both good shaft options for players that do have that long, smooth, flowing, low-tempo swing. In this category, we see that we have the Max head, great for those that want max distance and forgiveness, while we also have the Mavrik head. I would suggest the Mavrik head for players that feel they're improving rapidly or are athletic or have a lower handicap. The stock shaft is again the Helium 4, and suggestions for other shafts are similar. If you want to hit it slightly lower or like the club head to feel light, then you can use the Helium 5. For those of you that swing from the top and have a harder swing, you can try the green even flow. And those of you that have that flowing, smooth swing, I would suggest the Cortana or Recoil. That being said, for the first 2 categories, the Helium 4 really is a great shaft, and it's what I typically lead my students and fitties towards. Next up, both heads are great, but if you have control issues and seem to spray the ball, then you can try the Max. For most of the rest of you, stick with the Mavrik. The stock shaft in the lights, they used to call it the A-Flex, is the Riptide 50. It's again great all-around shaft. That's why they pick it and make it the stock shaft. If you want the club head to feel lighter, you can use the 60. The Helium 4 is going to launch slightly higher, make the club head feel slightly heavier. Helium 5 is pretty close to the Riptide, and it's kind of suggested for players with that smoother tempo swing. And we got the NVS Orange 45 and 55, another option for us smooth swingers. 65 is going to be for players that start getting a little more aggressive with their swings. So one of my favorite options for this category is actually the Black Tie-Nye, which is titanium nickel. They got coils that go all the way through the shaft. It's a lighter shaft, and you can kind of be more aggressive with it. As we get away from the smooth swingers and transition into those that swing hard, we get to that green even flow. And from here on, if you feel you're in the Max head, I'd pick one of the previous shafts as the ones that follow. Likely going to cause you to create more side spin, and you'll lose the ball. If you're a righty, you'll start losing the ball even further right. So pick one of those previous shafts if you feel like you're in the Max head. But moving forward, we got the IO70, one of the air quotes heavier shafts, but feels good for both smooth and hard swingers. Also, it's one that I noticed taller players gravitate towards too for some reason in my fittings. The beefiest shafts in this category are going to be the Hazardous T800s. It comes in a 55 and 65. So if you're on the cusp of thinking you need a regular shaft, but you generate speed from the top, kind of more like the Tiger jerk move rather than an Ernie Els or Annika smooth swing, then I'd suggest these shafts. They feel better to muscular, kind of those large forearmed Popeye golfers, but if you are long and lanky like me and swing from the top, also like me, and I'm working on it, trying to get a better tempo, then I would suggest you use the 65 as opposed to the 55. It just feels better. Mavrik is the head of choice for this category, with the max again for those that need a lot of help with consistency or have a higher handicap. If you do have a high handicap but you're athletic or feel you're improving, then again stick with the Mavrik. Stock shaft, still that Riptide 50, also offered in the 60, which means it'll go a bit lower, head feels lighter, and then the 70, where it means it'll go even lower and the head's going to feel even lighter. 70 I would suggest for those that swing harder or feel they're on the cusp of a stiff shaft but hit the ball a bit shorter. Our first sighting of the chrome elements. I think this is a great all-around shaft, and it's one I suggest for the smoother swingers, but it's also good for people with a mid-tempo as well. We got the Helium 4 and 5. I'm going to launch a little higher. They're both good options for those smooth tempo swingers as well. And we start as we start to transition into the faster tempo, kind of those harder swingers, which doesn't mean faster, just means harder. We have the black tie-nye again, and then they also have the silver. We got that orange NVS 45 going to launch the ball very high, and then we got so those that hit the ball low but kind of have a mid to high tempo. It's a good option, and then it also comes in a 55 and 65. Oh, we got another shaft we haven't seen yet, the red Diamana 60. Good for a mid-tempo swinger. That needs to launch the ball a little bit higher. And then we go further, we're getting more and more aggressive swingers. So we have the Even Flow green, followed by the blue 65, and then the 75. The stock Riptide covers most all shafts up until this point, but if you are a muscular golfer or like swinging super hard as opposed to building speed through lag, I would suggest you pick out something from what follows. We got the IO 60, I'd say, for hard swingers, and then the 70, it'll still feel good for those that have a smooth tempo. So the IO is kind of it's right in the middle there. That's a good option for players that feel they might be ready to jump up to a stiff flex, but still feel like the club head, they still like to feel the club head on their backswing. Some of the beefier shafts, we got the Rogue Max, comes in at 65 and 75 in this category. And we got the Rogue White 60 and 70. So these last four, they're going to be for players that have a higher tempo swing. Again, higher tempo or harder does not mean they swing faster. It's just where they swing from. So as opposed to being smooth, long, fluid, and building the tempo all the way up to impact, the harder swinger might start off smooth, but when we get to the top, we kind of like swing, almost like chopping at a tree. So think Tiger as opposed to Adam Scott. But that'd be the swingers we'd fit into those last four Rogue shafts. Now we're into the stiff flex shafts, and we have our first sighting of the Sub-Zero head. So again, the engineers that designed the Mavrik told us that nearly half of the tour players playing the Sub-Zero last year switched to the Mavrik. So if you like the low spinning Sub-Zero head, it'll be worth trying the Mavrik, because as they described it, they accidentally made an extremely low spinning driver head in the Mavrik. This is one reason why nearly 90% of sales will be in the Mavrik head. It's kind of just good across all categories. So the stock shaft available in the Mavrik head is the Riptide 50. Again, also comes in a 60 and 70, which will lower the ball flight as well as the spin. The Elements Chrome 6 is also now joined by the Chrome SF4, so the slightly lower launch, lower spin than the 6. The two Kuros made it back again. We got the 50 and the Silver 60. I really like the Elements in the Kuro for players that want to swing the club faster and already have good control of the ball. Next we get into the green Even Flow, followed by the blue, so low tempo to higher tempo, same with launch conditions. So the higher tempo your swing, you're going to lean more towards that blue 75 as opposed to the greens. First time we have the option for the even flow black, which is going to be low spinning, low launching bunch of the whole crew, and that comes in a 65 and 75. Again, Riptide, pretty good shaft that covers most everything up until this point. Moving forward, we have the Speeder, good for the mid-tempo swingers, followed by the IO 60 and 70. Again, these two are good for both low and high tempo swingers that want to launch the balls slightly higher. Bringing the ball down and starting to get into the beefier shafts, we have the Rogue Max 75 and 85, followed by the lower launching Silver 60 and 70. I'd say the Max for those that are more athletic, as the Max 75, Silver 60 launch rather similarly. Silver is easier to wield, the Max just a little beefier. Then we have the Rogue White 60, which is the stock shaft for the Sub-Zero head. Also comes in the 70 and 80, each of which will launch lower than the previous one. For those that swing extremely fast and might be on the cusp of an extra stiff shaft, but have you swing fast, but you have that long, fluid, slow, low tempo swing, then you're going to go with the Hazardous Yellow. Comes in a 65, 75, or 85. And then those on the other end of the tempo spectrum, the super high tempo, fast, hard swingers, you're going to be in the Smoke, which comes in a 60, 70, and 80. Final category is a toss-up between the Mavrik and Sub-Zero. Like I said, half of all Sub-Zero players switched over to the Mavrik this year, so if you were spinning your Sub-Zero around 2,000 to 2,400, then I would stay with the Sub-Zero this year. But if you had it pretty low, around 1,700 to 2,000, then I would jump to the Mavrik. That new Sub-Zero is just probably going to drop a little too low on the spin for you. The stock shaft, going to be the Rogue White 60, also available in the 70 and 80. I've never fit anyone into this shaft in this category, but they do offer the titanium, nickel, black, and silver club heads. At this speed, I'd be wary of snapping these shafts, but good for shorter arm players or those that don't mind chasing the club head down as it rolls down the fairway. The red Diamond 60, going to be good for a player that want to get a little more height on their drives, as well as those two elements, the Cool 6 and the SF4. The Riptide 60 and 70 still launch mid-high at these speeds. The blue will bring it down to mid, and then the black will start launching a bit lower. The Max is listed as a mid-launch, but will be somewhere between kind of that even flow black 65 and 75. The Silver 60 and 70, similar to the stiff category, will behave like the Max 75 and 85. So athletic, tall, lanky, go with the Max. Shorter arms, stocky, go with the Silver. The IO is the low mid-launch option, and then you got the stock Rogue White is the low option, which is why it is the stock for this category, and the Sub-Zero. And it makes sense because the Sub-Zero is designed to be low spinning, so they match it with the low spinning shaft. If we want to spin it even less and have a smooth tempoed swing, then I'd throw in that yellow Hazardous. And for the high tempo hard swingers, going to be that Hazardous Smoke again. So if those last two Hazardous shafts, if those don't bring your spin down to the 17 to 2,500 range, then you're going to require some specialty shafts, and you can always give me a call to discuss. But hope this helped, and hope you get the right club head and shaft. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're interested in purchasing the clubs, again, try to do a fitting first, but if you can't get out, or if you've already done one, there's always the link below. You can fill that out. I'll give you a call. We can order the clubs right up for you. Hope everyone's having fun. Stay safe and play well.